Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of a brand new podcast I'm starting called PickleballGrit, where we have special guests today. This is a brand new podcast launching ahead of our debuted issue of Atlanta Pickleball magazine. So I appreciate you guys joining us. Two great guests talking about pickleball, talking about investments, and the area of Metro Atlanta. So let me introduce Daniel and Laura Hardeman, regional developers of Dill Dinkers. Hey, guys. Thanks for
Hey,
joining
how
me.
you doing?
Hi, thanks for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Good. No, appreciate you guys being with me. It's a Friday afternoon and beginning of the weekend, so you all may be going to play pickleball later or not. But this is a great subject and a growing trend. Actually, it's beyond the trend at this point. There are cities
Right.
right now looking to open up their own places, county parks looking to do that, colleges fielding their own teams, summer camps, away summer camps for kids. So it's kind of cool that it's going all out there. But to get started, tell me a little bit about yourselves. And let's start with Laura. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then Daniel?
Sure. So actually, I'm an Atlanta native, which you don't hear a lot of. We're a fairly transient city.
Hmm.
But I grew up in the area, involved in a number of different sports, never racket sports though. And so as I became an adult, have my full career going. I work in marketing, have been in that field for more years than I care to admit,
Okay.
but I love it. And along the way, have dabbled a little bit in entrepreneurship. I was involved in a startup in a prior role prior to the one I'm in now. I've helped create a nonprofit. So I've always oriented towards
Cool.
entrepreneurialism. And then outside of work, of course, pickleball. I'd be remiss not to say that's my number one addiction. And close in line with that is my family.
Okay.
Daniel and I have four kids and
Wow.
amazing friends and family in Atlanta.
Wow. You have your own pickleball team right there. Uh,
Right. Right.
so, Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So for me, I'm actually far from being here from the Atlanta area. I was born and raised in Central America,
Cool.
and to the point of playing some soccer down there as a goalie, which influences my pickleball game. But yes, I surprise people with that fact. Typically, I look like someone who wasn't cooked long enough. Um,
Must have been
so
a transplant, though. Missionary group
right.
or
My parents were missionaries there, and so I
really?
was born and
Okay.
raised
Wow.
there until I came to Georgia, back to Georgia in '97. But that was the thing with being here in Atlanta and with Laura finding pickleball at the beginning of the pandemic. Uh, we had thought we were going to start playing tennis. Those rackets came in the mail. We got introduced to pickleball, and those rackets are still sitting in the closet.
Okay.
So that's part of our origin story. But yeah, I currently am working also in the IT field,
Okay.
and have now, I've previously looked at other franchises, and now with our entrepreneurial spirit, as she said, uh, we found something that we love and something that we can bring to the city and share with them.
Cool. So, entrepreneurs, it's always good to do startups. It's an
Right.
exciting process, right? To be able to do that and start a business. It's roller coaster of emotions, maybe, and investments, and
All right.
it's good to have a passion for what you're doing. So that's the number one thing. You also have other investors, if I'm correct. You have a U.S. Well, explain. Who are the other investors that you have with you?
So Laura actually has known them much longer than I have.
Okay.
Evelyn Evelyn Ornbuck is, and Stuart Knapshin. They're a couple that we have known for quite some time and very close to us. And Evelyn was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but, on the USA team for Dragon Boat. Is that right?
Yeah, she's quite an
Uh,
athlete.
Quite an athlete. On top of that, was is a vet, an astounding vet, and had opened her own practice and even sold that back in the day. And Stewart is a professor up at Kennesaw State, in business and strategy,
Okay.
and is one of our go-tos for those sort of that sort of information. We also have Destin Dunham, who it has ties to some of the Dill Dinkers founders and the group that started it. He's the nephew of one of them, of the CTO there, and he was the one that kind of brought it to us, and here we are now.
Well, it takes a village to start a.
It does. Well, and Evelyn and Stuart were actually the ones who introduced us to pickleball. They're the ones, right there at the beginning of the pandemic, when we thought we were going down the tennis route, and ended up, they introduced us to it, and the rest is history.
Interesting. And you know what I find about, I started with, I played a little bit of pickleball, but I started with tennis initially. And tennis, obviously a huge court. Pickleball, you can put 4 courts on that tennis court.
Oh yeah.
So anyone that's played knows how social and how close those courts are too. I mean, you could have your friends eating, chicken wings on the side and having a beer while you're thinking your ball and stuff. So
yeah, well, we've even had one guy who would play with a beer can in his hand with flip flops. Like we are part of that original group that we still carry a net in our car with chalk and a leaf blower in case. Just you never know when the game's going to break out, right?
So yeah, and we've had that on tennis courts where it's. But on pickleball, like you said, you could actually hold it on the court versus going to the cooler and stuff. Right. So you're dedicated, you're passionate. What made you decide? I mean, there's several other businesses, right, within this space. What made you decide on Dill Dinkers being the one that you want to go with?
I mean, for me personally, it had to do with, one, our passion for the sport, and the fact that we've seen, especially here in Atlanta, a lack of availability for courts. And on top of that, it is something that has brought community to us. It is something that has just been just a wonderful cornerstone of our relationship and our friendships and community and passion. So with all that combined, and having to, deal with battling tennis players or the elements or the park systems or whatnot to try to even get courts and neighbors, because we know that there's a sound element to it as well. And so all that kind of combined, it became something like, this is a need that a place like Atlanta, where we're ranked so low on, the scale of availability of pickleball.
I think it was almost 77th on a national survey.
Yeah, it's like 19th of the worst cities, not ranked in the top 20. It's 19th of the worst cities when it comes to pickleball. Yeah, and so when you have that kind of demand, with that kind of passion, and wanting to help bring something to the community, it was kind of a no-brainer in our eyes.
And having a play. Go ahead, Laura. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I think you're curious specifically about Dill Dinkers and why we chose to go with Dill Dinkers, because right now there's a lot of people entering this arena because there's so much demand, as Daniel described, and prior to even a choice within pickleball and how to go about bringing that in, we actually explored other franchise opportunities several years ago. So we've long been interested in that model. We think it makes a lot of sense. I can go into numerous reasons why, if you're curious, but I'll stay on track with why Dill Dinkers. As we started to look around, first you got to decide, okay, are you going independent with this, or are you going with support?
Right.
That's piece number one. And I think it's just overwhelming to try to do this independently. And so then you get to everything that Dill Dinkers brings to the table. And first and foremost, we liked that it was created for players by players. So they've been very particular. They're not so concerned, Dill Dinkers and we are not so concerned about, the exterior of the building, or having, other elements inside of it, like alcohol or food. That's not really the focus. The focus is really for the competitive player, or people who want to get better and are committed to playing pickleball on a fairly regular basis. Not to say we wouldn't be welcoming of beginners. We always certainly are. But things that differentiate Dill Dinkers is, they use the best courts, they use the best lighting, the fencing, the technology. Everything is oriented around players who, are going to know the difference in those environments. So that was a big piece. Combined with their team is incredible. Just what they've set up in such a quick amount of time, and their mentality about inclusion, about wanting involvement from the regional directors to bring best practices and ideas to the table and give them feedback has been amazing. And there just was a chemistry there with the people that we really believe in them and what they're trying to bring.
Cool. I know that there's other aspects to it, right? The cashless aspect. They're probably using technology that you could just walk on the court, know where you're going, not have to worry about paying anything, and just leave if you want to. And you're all touchless, if you will. That's kind of neat to be able to do that. It almost feels exclusivity to some degree, right? Versus going into a place, and have to deal with things and lines and stuff.
Right. It's meant to be as streamlined as possible. There's different models out there in the business even now. With ours, we do want to make it as easy as possible because you want to maximize that time when you come in, check in, and get your court, and be able to know where you're at and have the most state-of-the-art system for making it easy, because nobody wants to deal with that when they're trying to just get on and play and have that social time.
And I think having complete indoor makes sense, especially in Atlanta, hot Atlanta, right? So this way year round, and you don't have to worry about the heat, the sun, and all that.
Well, and even in here in the spring, you got the wind, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh God, the last few days, even today, actually, even so.
Yeah, but I think with the technology, there's other elements to that. So, for example, there's cameras on the court so that you can actually go back and watch your play or have a coach review it for you. So that's something you're not going to get outside. And again, it's designed for the people that really want to get involved in this sport and get better. So you're going to want things like that. There's also there's a coaching app. Daniel, you can speak better to that than I can. But again, how do you progress? That's the big $1 million question, right? How do you get the levels accurate so play gets competitive and people know where their skill gaps are? And so rather than it just be kind of here and there, there's actually a system, that's based on an app that we provide.
So would you all be able to stream games? Anything?
So all of that is our end goal. It would have that ability, and we are looking at the technology for that. And speaking as she was mentioning it, we're teaming up with Colin Johns, who is, as we all know, is part of that duo with Ben Johns, and he is our brand ambassador and loves what we're doing and is part of the team too. And with that, he's also a co-founder of My Pickleball Coach, that app. And so we are looking how to bring that in the best way possible to integrate it in with the entire experience, to the point where in the app, it currently has things where you can upload clips, you can upload video and have a coach give you feedback on it and so forth. And so it's just to have that kind of team. When we talk about the team, we're not joking. When Colin Johns is coming on board saying, we really love what you're doing and want to be a part of it, I mean, it says a lot right there.
Yeah, that's exciting. I can't imagine being able to go and play and then get feedback from a coach later to tell me, you need to, I can see that. That's kind of cool to be able to do that. And the sport is expanding enough that there are a lot of new players coming in. I know, for example, I was talking to someone from Malta the other day in their marketing department. And I think last year they had 4,600 players on Malta. This year they may have 5,800. Registration ends, I think, the end of the month. They have to find places to do this.
Right. Well, we actually, you bring up Malta, and that's actually the interesting part, because we actually just finished playing in their winter league. And, the crazy thing is we're having to drive all over the place to have these games. And, humbly will say we got silver in our division, but that's fine. But having to go all the way up to Woodstock, all the way down, and just and playing on, and you never know what the conditions of each court will be, because I do know where we play, like Grant Park, hasn't been resurfaced even for tennis in decades. Oh wow! And so you never quite know if the ball is going to hit the right thing to pop up or slide or whatever.
That's the Atlanta Parks Department.
Grant Park. That's it. Grant. Yeah, they don't have pickleball courts. Yeah,
but I think that's part of Atlanta or something, right? The
correct.
County Parks or something.
But that's where Alta currently is using either neighborhood courts or even other indoor facilities and locations. So it's all over the place.
And even they are seeing the growth in the sense that they also realize the pain, because that's what she was saying too. At this point, with not enough players, they're going all over the map. And if they can get enough players, they can condense that map, if you will.
Correct.
So, but you all would be, one location could actually have several leagues going on.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's a whole different story. Micro, it's almost like intramurals in a way.
Right? Well, and even with that, when we talk about community, like we want to build this in a way where, when we talk about 30 locations, we could even have our own little, leagues within the facilities. Have those neighborhoods have then challenge other locations and stuff. But it's really just a great setup, because with ours, the community aspect is the biggest piece, to the point where if you are a member at one, you can play at another. You're not having to, it is network wise that way. If you travel to Maryland, where the headquarters are, and have a business meeting there, you can play at that facility with our membership. So it ties in all across the board.
Yeah, to get back to the community part, I can appreciate that, because HOAs and other places, with tennis courts, a lot of them don't want it even penciled in, if you will, for pickleball. And and sometimes it's not enough practice time, even, because in Alta, as you know, you have practice time during the week, then you have matches. There's never enough court time or space to be able to do what you need to do. So pickleball needs its own place, its own life.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think to add to that, some courts, public and neighborhoods, allow you to reserve a space, but a lot of them don't. And so we've all had an experience, I'd bet, where you go out to an open play, or you go out with your friends and try to play, and you can't get a court, or you're waiting around a lot between games. I love to be outside, and so there's certainly a place for outdoor play, but also I love the certainty of when I can, sign up for a court, because let's face it, after traffic in Atlanta, you got, a couple hours you're probably willing to get out there in the court, and then you want to get home. And I don't want to take it my whole weekend. So I like knowing I'm going to get there 5:30, I'm going to play till 7:30, and I'm going home. And my experience at a lot of the other shared outdoor courts is I'm going to get there at 5:30, and if I want to have a decent number of games, I'm probably there for at least an additional hour.
Okay. All right. And I can see also, listen, HOAs and in other places, especially I've experienced it where people will register for the courts, reserve the courts, and you're playing next to it, and you could use that court, and it's empty all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And no one's showing up. Right. 2 people just reserved it. It's just like for 2 hours, it's just crazy. There's no sense of respect anymore about cancel your reservation. This way someone knows it's open,
Right. Right.
So it's hard to do that, even if bringing your own net to a place like that is.
Right.
Can you imagine? Yeah. It's just that people would be like, I can't even see doing that at the set of courts that we have, saying, I want to play pickleball because the next court over, there's no fence between the courts. It's like, it's not going to work. So dedicated. So there's a lot of counties in the metro area. So you're not stuck in one county, but can you share maybe the top 3 counties you may be looking at, or
we are looking from right now in Fulton County, DeKalb County, Cobb County. I think Clayton is one of them. The whole territory encompasses any Atlanta folks know ITP inside the perimeter, and then a good portion outside the perimeter too, all the way up to the Woodstock area, and over I think it's Swanee area, all the way out and all the way down and Stone Mountain and everything. So, but the primary ones we're looking at to start is coming a little more centralized, because I know Atlanta proper is very underserved in comparison to some of the other suburbs. Sure. And so we are definitely close to getting something started here.
So how much of a space, square footage wise, do you need to be able to do this?
So at minimum, it all comes out to the layout. At minimum, it's about 15,000 square feet for about 6 courts, with a minimum of 18-foot clearance to the ceiling.
Sure.
Which is PPA suggests between 18 and 20 minimum. Okay. And
that's for 6
going
courts.
Up. Okay. That's for 6 courts, and that would going up from there. It all depends on the layout, but typically about every 2,000 square feet more, you can fit another court if it's laid out properly.
Okay. So talk a little bit more, getting into the weeds of the business a little bit for those that are looking at this as an investor or something like that, or someone that wants to open or invest in something. If are you looking to, is it easier to repurpose a building? Because I've seen warehouses, I've seen certain places all of a sudden become other things. Former, what do you call it? Not Costco, like Sam's Club, or maybe one of these places that are bumper cars. All of a sudden, those things aren't in vogue anymore, but there's a lot of space. So
you've got the big box stores. You've got light industrial, some mall spaces. And that's where the industry as a whole is still evolving. And so we are looking at all these spaces, all the way down to one of the original locations in Maryland was a hockey rink, and they took out the ice, and now it's this gorgeous facility there. Another one was like a church facility. It wasn't an actual church, but like the facility where they did, other events, to the point where they filled up those 6 courts so fast they had to cut a hole in the wall and go into the next section of that building. Right. And so now they have 12 courts. And it's just a testament to how much demand there is for it.
Yeah. And I think different franchises are approaching that different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, I mentioned that obviously location matters a great deal. And we want a building that, it's going to have climate control and air conditioning, all those things.
Sure.
But our focus is more on the interior. So old warehouse spaces, for example, ample parking. A lot of them are, free from pillars and other barriers, and it's just a big space. So for us, that's fantastic. I think there's another approach where you're looking at a little more prime real estate with retail spaces. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's just a little bit of a different model, because our focus is we want to put the investment in the quality of the play environment. So, like, for example, our floors, they're going to have what is it called, Daniel? The soft,
the cushion eggs, that sort of thing. So it's a layer that helps kind of soften, for those of us with bad knees and stuff, but not take away from the quality of actual play. Like, you don't want the court, obviously, where the ball doesn't bounce properly. So it's got, and this is something that PPA promotes to.
Okay, I was going to say, because it's competitive.
Right. We got the thumbs up from Colin himself.
Legitimately, he've tried it. But I say that because that's just where our focus is. Whereas you may have another independent or another franchise that's focused more on, one of the higher end retail spaces. Both have their place.
Yeah, and our goal in providing to anyone who's interested in getting into it is to make it, this sort of thing isn't easy as a whole, but we want to make it as easy as possible and give them the support they need, and to be able to come in and work with us and with the landlords to be able to have it at a point where all we got to do is come in and put it in the courts and go and have something ready to go for them.
So it's really up to the individual franchisee, I guess, to say, because this is not like, you guys are into the courts, obviously, which makes sense, right? You want a good experience.
Right.
But there's no concession food portion to this or other things. Now we do, fine, right? Because if it's a good place and you have plenty of parking, plenty of space, an inventive, a entrepreneurial person would say, 2 food trucks on a Wednesday or a
Sure.
Saturday, that would
Yeah.
work. Outdoor dining, would be an area where they could go, or indoors, or set that space. So the individual franchisee can adjust for the community or the space they're in, I guess.
Correct. And we even provide the ability for them to look, if they want to do food, they can. We don't necessarily encourage it, but that's on them to do. We can't really, that's not really our model, but that's something that we allow that flexibility. But in all honesty, that style, like the entertainment ones, as if you will, that they're actually complementary to what we do. There's people that are going to hang out with their friends and drink there, eat there, that will then get introduced to pickleball.
Yep.
And that
True.
just continues to educate the community on what pickleball is and get more eyes on it. That can only benefit all of us as a whole.
Right. With Atlanta in particular, and the counties around here, there's so many opportunities for cross marketing, cross promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any opportunities that you'd like to, engage in, any community programs, other things? I mean, we talked about Alta a little bit, but are there other opportunities that are out there that you all think would help in this?
Go ahead, Laura.
Well, I was going to say, one thing that is really important to us, and I think Dill Dinkers as a whole, is being able to give back to the community. So, not so much cross-marketing purposes, but more just community building purposes. I certainly see us doing a number of different, whether it be a charitable fundraiser or bringing in, a group of people, Boys and Girls Club, for example, to come in and learn pickleball. Those are the kind of things we want to get involved in. That matters to us as individuals a lot to give back.
Sure.
Beyond that, I think we were just talking the other day about all of our locations have pro shops, and we were talking about lifestyle products. Like there's the products that you have for playing, and then there's lifestyle products. So I think that's a good example. I know personally, I own pickleball earrings, and I have a cute bag, and I've got my clothes. Like that's just something that's a part of it. So I think some of that exists. And Daniel, you may have more to say about those opportunities.
Yeah. We've between teaming up, Eula, we have a partnership with Eula, partially because of the tie to Colin, of course, but we'll have other suppliers as well, but they'll be the ones that are our primary partner there, and even looking at opportunities with the growth of tournaments and the PPA, the APP, the MLP. Atlanta has. Unfortunately, we moved down from the premier level of MLP. Now we're on the challenger level, but hopefully we'll be moving back up there next season. But things like that, because you have so many ties to the community and to those sort of opportunities that you can tie into. And to Laura's point, we really do love the idea of giving back as much as possible, including things like schools. Before we even signed on with this, at my kids' own school, they had a rainy day field day. And so I ended up taping off a court inside their cafeteria and playing every kid in the school. I played the lunch lady that day. So for 5.5 hours, I taught the entire school pickleball, and I paid for it. I'm not as young as I used to be. So for the next 3 weeks, I was sore, but it was just such a rewarding experience to see these kids who'd never even heard of the sport get really excited and just be able to have some fun.
I've seen 12-year-old semi-pro kids on TikTok doing this.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about tennis, a whole big court. It's just it's almost like a paddleball court on a little tennis court, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. They're starting from young age, and you're right. The community, being able to provide that space like that, I think will grow this sport really well, I think, over the next few years. So you're actually growing a funnel of players coming to you over the next 10 years, maybe.
And I can tell you that we don't even know if it'll rain this year at field day, but they are all still asking, are you coming back? Are you coming back? And it's just to see that kind of excitement for kids that have never, I mean, they've never picked up a racket of any kind. It's really rewarding to be able to do that sort of thing.
That is cool. And being community minded is definitely, especially in what I found moving down here from New York, from Brooklyn, New York, way different than down here, that's for sure.
Right.
And I moved down here in 95. And when we drove into our neighborhood in Gwinnett County in Peachtree Corners, there were people waving to us. And because I guess back then they knew every car that came in the neighborhood. It's only 84 homes. And I'm like, honey, do they know us? Do we know them? And she's like, yeah.
Welcome to the South, right?
Yes. Which is great. And this is the whole big thing of it. I mean, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts are big down here. Not that they're not big up there, but it's a different atmosphere, I think. So different values to a degree also. But it's good to see you all, investing in the community, getting this going, because you're right, Atlanta needs it. There's just not enough places. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you all want to share also besides?
I mean, I could talk about pickleball all day long. I know the hardest thing about doing this of what that I found is that we've had so many contacts with people along the way that then pass us up. They just are that good. So that's okay. I think that's wonderful. Let them keep going on. But that's the wonderful thing is throughout the pandemic, throughout our changes in our lives, this community is what has really kind of fulfilled us. And we can go to just about any court in Atlanta and run into somebody we know. And we're talking about, because being down here in Grant Park and wanting to go play on a real court, having to drive all the way up to Shaw and Marietta or Hammond or somewhere else just to get on a real court. And being able to now just, you recognize everybody knows everybody knows your name, and that even the ones that don't will still wave at you.
It's like the old cheers. So
right. Well, and we're just really excited to partner with people who want to help spread this. And so, I mean, that's the best part, is the support of those who want to do something different than the regular 9 to 5, to want to start something of their own, to be able to be part of that passion.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants, go ahead, Laura. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, the last thing I would just add is, Atlanta, one thing I love about Atlanta is it's a very diverse community, perhaps because we are such a transient city. Sure. And I love that about it. And pickleball, to me, represents the spirit of Atlanta extremely well. So it bridges all ages. You mentioned, the young kids, but I have been beaten very handily by people in their 80s. We've seen like our facility is going to be accommodating for people in wheelchairs, because there are amazing wheelchair players in pickleball.
For sure.
We've seen all races, all sizes, all genders. It's just that's one of the things I love most about it. And you mentioned it's a really social sport. It is. You rotate, you get people in. So I hope that to be our legacy. I hope that to be our legacy. Atlanta is bringing more of that.
Yeah, I love the fact that you could have a 20-minute game versus a 3-hour set, 3 sets in 3 hours.
Right.
Tennis. It's just like crazy. So if someone wants to find out more about Dill Dinkers Atlanta and talk to you guys, how would they reach you? And we'll have this in the show notes when we put this up. But
right. It is so dilldinkers.com is the base site, since we don't have our specific location open yet, which like I said, we're very close to. I can't spill the beans on where it is just yet. Come on. But we're this close to having it signed to start building out. But
inside the perimeter or outside, at least?
I'll give you at least that. It's inside the perimeter.
Okay.
So it'll be addressing a need with those who have been lacking for a while for courts. It'll definitely be supporting that. But the website, if you're interested in franchising and working with Laura and I on this, is the dilldinkers.com /franchise-territory-Atlanta.
If you just go to the site, you can navigate to it very easily.
Right.
Dilldinkers.com.
Yeah, it's a simple.
Well, the franchise site's on a slightly different. Yeah.
Well, appreciate you joining me. This has been a great conversation. Certainly love talking about pickleball, and I especially love, because of my background a little bit, talking about business, about the entrepreneurial part of this, and about the community building, because it's all about that, right? There's a journey that we're on, but we don't want to just be all about business, right? I mean, that's not fulfilling enough.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that to see that here. So we've been talking to Laura and Daniel Hardeman, regional developers for Dill Dinkers, and just can't wait to see where inside the perimeter that's going to be, opening their first location.
Hopefully soon.
But
I will add. If you follow the Dill Dinkers social media right now on Instagram, Facebook, and all those locations, you can find them just as Dill Dinkers. There will be, once we have that announcement for this location, it'll start going up there as well.
And how long does a place? And how long does it take to actually open once you signed? And what's the? So
that's the best part about it. If you get a place where the landlords will friendly, or if it's a place that's already basically white box, where it's ready for you to come in and put in the courts. We've had one location opened within 51 days of signing the lease.
Wow.
That's the fastest. Now we look at probably 60 to 90 for most, as if you're at the point of not having to do significant build out.
Right.
And that's why we're very purposeful in trying to find those friendly locations that will work with us to get to the point where then we can just, as soon as we sign that lease and get going, we can turn it around.
Yeah. That's good turnover, and that's great way to start building that cash flow through there. 60 days out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Can't go bad
That's exactly right.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Hang in there with me for a minute, but thank you everyone for listening to our first episode of Pickleball Grit. We'll be doing more of these, and appreciate you hanging in there with us. Share this with everyone, and stay well. Enjoy the courts.